Thank you for joining me today at Laurie's Little Studio. I'm Laurie, and today I'm going to start a new kitchen series. So I have some items here, some fabrics here, some things that I could use or reuse, and who knows, I may end up having to buy some. I think I'm going out with my youngest daughter, I think on Wednesday. I don't know if we're going to go, I think we're going to just go get coffee, but we could end up going to Hobby Lobby or Joann or something. And if we do, I may end up having to get some fabric and just make some things. This was a plan that I drew over the weekend. My husband and I planted some button dahlias, black dahlia, white spider lilies, astilbe, a whole bunch of astilbe, liatris, and the blue hosta went in the back. But this is right, my dining room is right here. This would be where the window is that looks out over this flower bed. And this is the front door and the walkway. So this is just going to be full. I don't like to farm dirt. I'm going to fill this up. I have 2 azaleas, I have an acer tree, I have a whole drift of gladiolas already in the ground. These are sprinter boxwoods, and there's a couple of hostas and some primrose along this edge. So it's already got quite, oh, and then there's corydalis and some gara, some tick seed, and I think there's actually 2 tick seed plants. And there are some, and I don't know if they're going to come back, but there are some coneflowers in this, along this edge right here. Today is Valentine's Day, so it's 2/14 of 2022, and this is going to be sewing for spring kitchen. There we go. So the items will be, and not necessarily in this particular order, I'm going to be making so I would like to make a bowl cover. But my bowl cover is actually going to serve 2 purposes. All right, the second thing that I want to make are some coasters. I realized the last time my children were all here, which was for my birthday, February 5th, that weekend of February 5th, we just didn't have enough coasters to go around. And they're so easy to make, and they're so handy. Plus, I just remembered my husband wants one for his desk. We're all working from home now, and he's using his desk as his workstation, and he likes to drink tea, and you know, you just like to have a beverage with you. I most often have a beverage, and they do create a mess on occasion. So I'm going to make some coasters. So here's a thought. This right here is left over from the table, my dining room table pad. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but it's like vinyl on one side and kind of a soft, fuzzy fabric on the other side. And you put it on your table before you put your tablecloth on. And that way, I mean, it's not going to stop the transfer of heat to your, from here to the table, but it will definitely protect the table from any type of moisture damage. If somebody spills their water or, wine or whatever, this vinyl side prevents it from going all the way through and then just sitting on your beautiful dining room table or any other table in your house for that matter. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is use this in making the coasters that I plan to make. I'll use this one as an example. This is the type that I plan to make, and they're so easy. So this one has Insulbrite in it, which is another great way to protect your furniture. But see, this is the inside right here. It just flips this way to protect whatever happens to be on the inside. I've actually put paper towels in these when I've needed to. Just, you know, if you've got a hot summer day and a cold drink with a lot of ice in it, you're just going to have a big mess. But what I can do is get them all made, not worry about cutting this up, and then let me just take a little scrap here. Pretend like this is, you know, just one big piece. But as you can see, you just slip this to the inside. And all of a sudden, your coaster becomes moisture proof. So I think that's what I'm going to do with the rest of this. I have more of it, and it's just kind of been in my way, and I kept thinking there's got to be a great way to use this. So that's what I'm planning to do. I'm going to make a whole bunch of coasters out of all the different fabrics that I have hanging out in my storage containers in the closet, and cut these into pieces that will fit, and then we'll just have this. And then if I want to wash my coasters, I can just pull these out, wash the coasters, and then put these back in there. I hate throwing stuff like this away, but at the same time, I have to start being a little bit selective with my space. So coasters with vinyl inserts. Yeah, and I'm probably going to make 8. So I'll say times 8. Then I am going to make an apron that I've made before. So this is the pattern I'm talking about. It is a wonderfully fun little pattern to make. Okay, so the main thing that I wanted to do in here today was cut some 5, I think maybe actually 6-inch squares for the coasters, because I swapped the bowl cover and the coasters in the lineup. And I went through and found 2 boxes of fabric and a huge piece of Quilter's Dream. It's not my favorite. I like Warm and Natural better. I have just a little bit of Warm and Natural left, but I think for the project, Quilter's Dream would be fine. There's no way I can convey the difference between what this feels like, which is cotton fabric. It doesn't have a discernible texture. It's just very soft feeling cotton fabric. This, however, Quilter's Dream, is very bumpy and rough. I don't think that that would make a bit of difference in a quilt. Not sure that it would, but there's just no way I can explain it to you. If you had your eyes closed, you would definitely be able to tell a difference between these two. Bam, a hair. This just feels like fabric, and this feels like some kind of rough, textured, I don't know what. But for my project, making coasters, I'm going to use the Quilter's Dream and preserve my Warm and Natural for something else somewhere down the line. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the small box first. This is some Batiste. I don't know. Oh, I forgot all about this. Let's just see. These might be really cute. Hey. Okay, let me take a look at this. A little bit too small, but if I stitch 2 of these, Alright, so after cleaning George up a little bit, I've just chosen some neutral thread that I already have. Here we go. This is sort of a off-white for the needle, and I will use just a gray, just a neutral color. I don't think it's a good idea to roll up another bobbin when I don't have to. I'm going to change the exposure on the camera a little bit. It's being a little irritating. Let's see what that's like. There we go. That's a better look. Alright, so my bobbin goes into my bobbin case so that my thread is exiting clockwise to me. When I turn it around, obviously it won't be, but that's alright. Pop that in there. Okay. There was a huge amount of lint in my sewing machine, so it's a habit I have formed to clean my sewing machine every time I change the bobbin. I'm usually changing the bobbin pretty frequently. Yeah. There's some static in the room, but it's not as bad as it was the last time that I sewed something. It was just horrible in here. Alright, so now I'm just going to stitch. And I'm going to stitch using 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, so here's one. Kind of cool looking. And I'm just going to keep going. And when I come back, this is just going to be this big piece of fabric that I will then cut 6-inch squares from. And we'll just go from there. I'm going to go ahead and press this piece of fabric that I've made. Very strange. Maybe I just don't have enough water in it. That could be a thing, right? Just too cute. I really like the way this looks, weirdly. Okay. So if I cut this, my hope is that I will be able to, this isn't squared up, so I'm not going to fold it in half. I have somewhere a square 6-inch ruler that I have been tripping over for days and days. Well, I want you to know it was right in front of my face. And let's look at this. I think it's 6.5 actually. Yeah. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the 6.5 because I want that extra for seam allowance. Okay, so we have our 4 blocks, and my plan is to fold so the way I view these is this is a fox face, this is the fox nose, this is the fox ears, and each side of course will be different in my case. So we're just going to fold and see what we think. And of course you can fold it this way for one look or this way for a totally different look. So playing around with these is, you know, as fiddly as you want or not as fiddly. You don't have to be fiddly if you don't want to be fiddly. Okay. This batiste is awfully thin. I think I will double it up. I'll just treat it as one piece of fabric rather than 2. Little bits of fabric. Alrighty, so this is the way this goes. Now remember, I'm going to treat this as one piece of fabric. So I'm just going to use a little bit of my double-sided tape. Not a whole bunch. Let's see if I can get that. Thankfully it has kind of a sheen and I can see it. Perfect for this. Okay, so now I need to decide how I want my blocks to look. Fox's nose goes in the corner, and what you should have is this matching this matching this, and this matching this. And then turn it. And we're going to go to the next. Now keep in mind that when this gets flipped, this is what you're going to be seeing. So if you prefer the other way, you know, more of this and less of this, you might want to consider flipping it around. It doesn't matter so much if you're using a solid, but when you're using a pieced together piece of fabric, then it kind of becomes important. And of course you could press these. All right, so Fox's nose goes in the corner, and it will look like this, and turn it to this angle right here. All right, let's do, I think I'll do this one this way. Fox's nose goes in the corner, and the corner is the bare, you know, we haven't done this corner yet. So that's what, when I say in the corner, that's what I mean. Okay, so now we're going to turn this, and when we have 3 down, we have one more step. We have to flip the first one back onto itself like so, and then we're going to put Fox's nose in the corner. I think I'll do it this way. Okay. All the way around, and then the one we flipped back, we just flip over onto itself. All right, so you kind of have this little pinwheel effect. And here's the neat part, we're just going to stitch all the way around. We don't have to leave an opening, we don't have to remember to do anything else. We're just going to stitch all the way around. All right, I like to fiddle with them a little bit, you know, kind of get every corner right in the corner, and a stiletto or a sharp pen will help you with that. And it's really good once they're locked in place to just, you know, put a pin in on each one of your blocks. Like this. Alrighty, so now we're just going to turn this out. So that's all I'm doing, just turn it to the outside. If you don't have a point turner, just to take either your thumb and your fingernail and just push to the outside on each of those corners, and that works pretty well. I don't recommend using scissors or a pen or any of that sort of thing. All right, and here we have the number 1 finished large coaster. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the piece of Quilter's Dream to match up. I think I'll use 2 layers, and I can use my basting adhesive spray and bond to attach this together, so I'll have a double thickness. But let's get it cut out first. And I'm going to use the scissors I use to cut out paper. I don't like to use my Kai scissors or my pinking shears on this. I don't mind so much with Warm and Natural, but I don't know. I just don't know how my scissors would feel if they had to cut that out. Okay, so we want these to stay together. I'm going to use some basting spray. Perfect. And then just kind of fold it up like so, and into fold, like this, and just set it in there. Corners pushed out. There we go. And of course you can press these whatever you feel like you need to do. That corner needs to be pushed a little bit more. Oh, there we go. All right, now let's see. There's a cup of tea. Here's a large fiddly cup that could easily be a little rocky. It seems to be just fine, nice and flat. And there we go. Hey guys, it's Laurie. It's day 4. I skipped day 3. I went out with my daughter. We had coffee and we went shopping, and then I had things I needed to take care of. What do I have here? You're probably wondering. I have a lot of projects. This is a bowl cover. These, of course, are not a sewing thing you would normally think of. However, they're both similar in size. One is to my truck and one is to my husband's vehicle. And they're hard. We just keep them hung up by the door, and they're just a little bit hard to differentiate. I have got to figure out a way. Now this one, this is the newer vehicle. It has a smaller little ring. And this one is the truck, and it has a bigger ring. But that's hard to see because they're kind of in a little dark corner. So I'm thinking I'm going to take a piece of fabric like this. Okay. Okay, so probably for my key, I will go ahead. I think what I'm going to do is slip this through here. And just cut this off. Well, I need to stitch it first. But then I'm going to cut it. It doesn't have to be very long. Just something to kind of say, hey, I'm the truck key. And then I'll use the rest of this to cover these raw edges. Okay, so this is what we have right here. And I'm going to cut this right there. And then we have this. Good grief. Right. I'm going to stitch across the lower edge first. Clip it up there. Even it up. Okay, and then I'm just going to stitch right across there. Still crooked. Okay, so there it is. Okay guys, so this is a bowl cover that I made a while back. As you can see, it is reversible, which I happen to like. I think it's, you know, it's nice that you have options with a reversible. And the only thing that makes it reversible, seriously, is 2 different fabrics and a casing for the elastic To be honest, if you only wanted to do one piece of fabric and non-covered, non-cased elastic, that would be fine too. Or you could do 2 pieces of fabric, wrong sides together, and then just attach the elastic if you had, say, a piece of color elastic. I don't know if you've seen that before, but there is elastic that is of different colors. So that's an option. Or the other option, there's several by the way, would be, for example, you have your piece of fabric. You can make a piece of casing by doing this. I would use bias and just have it, you know, run all the way around the circle, and then you could put your elastic within that casing. But I like this style, and I also like just having one piece of fabric for a bowl cover. But because this one is a little bit more involved, I will go ahead and show you how I did this one. I'm not going to do a lot of math. It just doesn't involve all that silly business. If you're making a bowl cover, you almost are guaranteed to have a bowl. So I have 2 pieces of fabric that I am going to have to iron because they are ridiculously wrinkled. Right there. I'm trying to remember. This one I bought yardage, I believe, for something I was making for Jessica. And this one was part of a fat quarter pack, if I'm not mistaken. But so before I go over to the ironing board, I'm going to measure and see if I have enough of these 2 fabrics to make a bowl cover for this bowl. This is basically the average size in my house. I do have several quite large bowls, but because I don't use those very often, I don't feel like I need a cover for them. Okay, so, well, quite easily I have plenty of fabric. What you really want is 2 inches past the lip of your bowl. So what you can do is take this bowl and draw your circle right around with, you know, whatever it is that you're going to use to mark. And then you can remove the bowl and mark out 2 inches from the center of your bowl. Just make a mark, you know, moving, or you could even use a string with a pencil tied to it on a pen kind of thing. The other option is to take something that you have that's got 2-inch measurement markings and just do this, because if it's off by a fraction, it's not going to really matter that much. You're just going to have a casing and that'll be fine. So however you want to mark, I would say just use your bowl, mark around it, and then give yourself that 2-inch margin however you can. You know, whatever method you need to use to mark out your 2 inches. It's very simple. But before I do all of that stuff, I'm just going to go ahead and iron these. Okay guys, so I just finished lunch and I've pressed these 2 pieces of fabric. While I was eating lunch, a package was delivered. So let's see what we got. I'm going to use my, don't talk. I'm going to use my paper cutting scissors. I have 2 pair. This is the other one. Sorry about that. I have this camera at a weird angle. I was looking at jibs and booms yesterday, trying to figure out a better way, a better system, and I don't know. I may need to move it that way a little bit more on the table and see if I can't angle it better. I don't know. I gotta figure that out. Okay, what did I do? I know that I ordered some white thread. It was on sale. This size 1000, this size of Gutermann white poly thread, it's 1094 yards. Basically just your basic white thread, was $12, which is a little bit less than what you would pay otherwise. And, oh, so the other project that I have in mind that I'm just dying to work on is for my kitchen, which, I mean, all of these are kitchen projects. But I really kind of wanted to level up on light, bright colors for spring. And these obviously are those darker, richer tones that I'm okay with. But these are the color that I really prefer, my absolute preferred. And when I was out yesterday, I didn't see anything like this. Aren't they cute? I think they're adorable. It's a set of 3, and we'll see how big they are. I mean, they can tell you how big they are, but you know, you kind of need to see the size. Does it tell us on here? No, it does not. So, all right, so this is about 26 inches, maybe even 30. But I want to do some applique. So I spent a little bit of time today looking for applique design books or patterns, or I don't want to do a download. I could just draw my own, or I'm going to clean out my closet, which is the most likely thing. I have just got to. I've just been kidding myself. It's so bad. I have to clean that out. I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And I know that in that giant mess, I have some applique patterns that I can draw from that I would like. So I'm thinking about doing a little bit of applique with maybe a little bit of embroidery. I don't want it to be too futzy because then I won't use the towel. But if at the bottom, you know, edge, it has something cute, I think it would just be wonderful. But I'm happy. Okay, so let's get back to this. All right, so I've ironed these 2 pieces of fabric, and the temptation would be to just do this and cut it out 2 pieces at one time, but I'm not going to do that. I would like to make sure, first of all, that the part of the fabric I'm cutting out is the part that I want to see, and that I'm cutting out to the best angle on my fabric. In other words, I don't want to like have a big hole right in the middle of this and then have these 2 pieces of fabric that I then have to figure out what to do with. If I put this bowl, let me get this pushed back out of the way. All right, if I put the bowl, you know, as close to the edge as I can, remembering, of course, that I need 2 inches. Pull all the wrinkles out. There. Okay, and I'm using my mat. So here I know that's where that line is, and there's 2 inches, so I need to slide this over. That gives me right to that raw edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark my 2 inches all the way around. There we go. So we are ready with this now to take the pins out and figure out where we're going to put the elastic channel. Okay, leave these here. I need to move this ball out of the way. We'll put it up there. Okay, so the way this goes, we will, oh, there's a pin. We will take these two pieces of fabric and put them right sides together. And if you wanted to do an applique in the center, or if you wanted to do embroidery in the center, this is when you would do this before. So I'm going to try to get these lined up the way they look the best. Obviously there's little spots where the darker blue fabric is a little bit off of the pattern, but that's okay. All right, let me trim some of it off so I don't get too distracted by these massive gaps. And we're going to go around trim, talk later. Okay. All right. So we're going to go around the outer edge and we're going to leave an opening that we can turn it through, and then we're going to turn it right side out and we're going to stitch, not closing that up, we're going to stitch a channel and then leave that open and stitch another channel and leave that open, and then we're going to put our elastic through it. We need to make sure that that channel has a small opening through which we will guide the elastic. Once we get that done, we're just going to turn under our ends where this was turned out and stitch it closed. We can either do that on the machine or by hand. So, and I'll show you what I mean. Now we need to make sure that the channel is wide enough to accommodate our elastic. And I want my elastic to be smaller than this. Okay. $31. You've got the 31. You know about the 31. The other thing you can do is just measure across the top and then ask Google what the circumference is. That's another thing you could do. Okay, so now we're going to take a piece of elastic right here. We're going to cut 31. No, we're not. We're not going to cut 31. We're going to cut 30. Or if you want it to fit super tight, cut 29. This elastic is super stretchy. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm going to actually have to cut another inch from that. I'm going to have to cut my elastic 3 inches shorter because this is so stretchy. Okay, now let me show you. I might even have to cut it smaller. Usually, if you have a little bit more substantial elastic, you will cut a 1 to 2 inch shorter amount. Now, I'm not stretching it. I don't want to stretch it at this point. I'm just going to hold it up. Okay, so it's going to stop about right here, which means that I will be stretching some, which is good. I don't want to stretch it too much, but oh, come on. Scotch tape, I'll tell you what, it could hold a train together. Okay. All right, so now we have our 2 pieces of fabric and our elastic. All right, so next is to just go around. I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch seam allowance, because it doesn't need to be, the item does not need to be made any smaller. It's the size I want it to be. I'm cleaning the lint off of my machine. I think I'll check that. Well, I'm going to regret it. I'm going to go ahead and check the feed dog area. Oh, can you see that? That's pretty bad. Yeah. I try to do this at least 2 or 3 times a day when I'm sewing every day. Most domestic sewing machines are not used as much as this one is. So I do try to keep that lint clear. All right. Now you can pin this together if you need to, but I'm just going to use the edge of my foot right here as my guide. And then we're going to trim the threads off. And if you use a larger seam allowance, you will need to go around with your pinking shears. You will need to make a little cut every so often, but you know, if you do it with your pinking shears, that kind of helps your circle turn out pretty. Okay, that all looks pretty good. Now I'm going to turn this to the right sides, like so. And I recommend pressing it while you have an opportunity to do so. Just get all of the parts of this circle pushed out so that your edges all meet up nice and pretty. Give it a press. You can press this under if you wish. I'll show you what I mean when I come back from the ironing board. Alright, I'm back from the ironing board where our little project has been pressed. Okay, so now I'm going to take a marking pen. I'm using a heat erase friction pen, and I'm going to mark 1 inch from the sewn edge of the circle. So I'll just go around and mark the 1 inch. So now we have that channel for our elastic. Okay, I'm going to use basically a 2 inch safety pin, and I'm going to attach this to my elastic, and I like to do it like a stitch, like so. I don't want to be pulling on just a little piece of the elastic. I don't think that works very well. Okay, so right here where I left the bottom edge open, I'm going to take my elastic and push it through this channel, and push your pin right in there. Now I have taken my hand off of the pin, and I'm just holding back here and scooching the elastic through. I don't want to hold on to the pin because it might come undone, and I don't want that to happen. I just think the least amount of pressure on that pin is the best. You could also use a bodkin if you have one. It's a big, huge needle. It's flat and it has a big eye on the end of it that you can thread either ribbon or elastic or lace or something through it, and it will go through a channel like this. Or you can put ribbon through beaded lace. It's a nice tool. I have several and I can't find any of them. It's an awful, awful thing. Now your bowl cover is going to end up looking like a shower cap. So if that gives you an idea, if you choose to make one of those, that's kind of a cool idea. I thought about it the last time I made one of these bowl covers and I didn't do it. All right, again, I'm just going to hold on to the elastic and not the pin. And it will now exit on the other side of this channel. Right. I'm not there yet. Right there. See? Don't really want to pull on this. Okay, so here it is. And now I'm going to remove this pin and take up the other piece of elastic and stitch these two together. It can be a little maddening, but we all have had experience since we've been making face masks. And we'll put it in zigzag. Alright, and I recommend that you go over that multiple times. Okay. Now I'm just going to wiggle this elastic so that it's completely in the fabric. Just the act of pulling it through that channel will stretch it out of shape. It'll just cause it to be stretched out and longer. So you can fix it by just pulling it up a little bit more, and we will stitch that. Okay. Don't like the idea of cutting elastic with my Kai scissors, but I did it. Okay, so now the little end of the elastic is down inside the channel, and all we have to do is just take this to the machine and stitch straight stitches on both sides of that elastic. So I'll put this back in, and you're going to have to hold your fabric out so it's not ruffly and figure out where you were. So line up with that stitch and back in the center again. So, and I'm going to line this up with this down here and not stitch over my elastic. Okay, there's one. I have two that I have to stitch. let's do the second line of stitching, which is right here. So line up my machine with the second line, pull the elastic straight, stitch to meet up with this line down here, and not stitch over my elastic. Okay, there we go. And I kid you not, I think this would be, you'd have to measure your head or the other person's head, but you could make the cutest little shower cap with this method. You would just have to make sure it fit before you started doing all this elasticing and stitching and so forth. Now we do have one spot left to stitch, and that's this opening right here. And we can easily do that. We can even use a decorative stitch and go all the way around if we want to. We'll see how it looks on the bowl before we get too carried away. My hands are just saying, nope, I don't think so. Oh, how cute is this? Look, I love it. That's adorable. Yep. And as I said, if you wanted to do an applique, you would need to do it, you know, wherever you would want that to be before you did any of this sewing. You'd have to have your plain piece of fabric applique and ready to go. But let's see what it looks like this way, because it is, after all, reversible. So cute. How cute is that? Let's see, I think I'll do this one right here, which is the number 14 stitch, which is just an over edge on the Bernina 1080. Alright, so there's that stitching. And the nice thing about that is it adds a little weight to that ruffle, which I think is really, really cute. I don't know if you can see, maybe a little bit there. Yeah. Alright, so we have our bowl cover done. And then the other thing that we were talking about the other day, before I took a day off, was the dish towel right here. Okay, so when I left off, I had made this big piece of fabric, and then I cut it into strips, but I don't think you guys saw me do that. And I did not stitch this. I said I was going to, and I did not. I may have to. The other thing was that I was going to cut this dish towel in half and then hem it right along the cut edge. So I'm going to see what I think about that, because there's a lot of stretch in this dish towel. I'm almost thinking I'm not going to cut it. I don't think I have to. It is quite large, but if I gathered it up, or maybe pleat it, it's the size that I like. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply the designed fabric right across this bottom edge. If it will fit, I might, yeah. And that's okay that it's not all the way to the edge. I don't think that's going to be a problem for me. So here is the way that I like to do this. It will sort of be an applique, kind of, but let me show you the way that I do it. I'll use some of this batiste, and I need it to be the same. Alright, so what I want to do is take this piece of yellow batiste, and I'm going to cut out a piece that fits it exactly, which clearly it's got that funny little bow in the middle there. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is fold this in half, the lining fabric, and I'm going to cut like this. Why have I lost my mind? Why have I done something so insane? Well, I will show you in a minute. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to put my top piece of fabric face down onto the lining piece of fabric. I'm going to stitch all the way around it. All of the way around it. Around it. Now we're going to cut the excess fabric away from the side seams. We're going to trim these corners. If you want to grade those seam allowances by trimming one piece of the fabric and not the other piece, you can do that too. It does help those things, those fabrics, to lay a little bit flatter. Just be sure you're not cutting into your stitching. And also make sure that you cut that right there before you stitch. It can be done afterwards, but it's a little risky. It's just easier to do it before. Even with your seam, oh my goodness, interfacing. All right. So now that we've done that, we can just take this right here and turn this piece right side out. So now we want to just take this to the ironing board, press it so that we cannot see any of the fabric behind. We only see our applique fabric right here. So we're going to get this ready, press it nice and flat, and then stitch it to the towel. Alright, so there's the front of the towel with the design sewn down, and this is the back with just the thread showing. And then I'm going to take this top and I'm going to create some pleats. So if we pretend this is the raw edge of the towel, we're going to pin, we need to fold this in like so, and pin this down. Alright, so what I plan to do with this is make a hanging loop. Once again, I have pressed it in half and then pressed each of the long edges to that center and then pressed it in half that way. And I'm just going to stitch down the folded edges, these two right here, first. And then because I happen to like the look, I'm going to stitch down the other side over here where it's folded. Now there is literally nothing wrong with the quirkiness of having the dark on one side and the light on the other and vice versa, but I have the darker bobbin thread on the bottom and the lighter needle thread on the top in this case. All right, I'm going to match these. I think I'll do them like this. Alright. I know what to fix next time. That's why I like to sew like this. I have a little handle. I have a top that kind of goes with my applique at the bottom. I will hang this up in the kitchen and take a picture that I will put up for you to see right here. And let me think about what we've done so far today. We did this, we've done the bowl cover, we did a package opening. Yesterday we made fabric strips that we can do just about anything with. We also made a little keychain identifier for the truck key. I was going to show you a recipe book. I'm going to put my little bowl cover through the wash. I need to get all the ink and everything out of it and get it ready for the kitchen. These need to be washed. And I'm going to probably go ahead and edit. Trying to think if there was anything else that we were going to work on. But at this point, I think not. If you liked this crazy video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. We would love to have you join us. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.